Hi folks, welcome to your mwis Friday Planner in association with Ellis Brigham. Now, rather a lot to take in on this summary to start today's video, and there is quite a bit of weather happening over the week ahead. It's a generally unsettled autumnal pattern that's coming in off the Atlantic, and we've got some fairly mild conditions in the short term, but the week ahead as a whole is looking rather cool, with temperatures on higher mountains often down in the lower end of single figures, and may just be chilly enough on the odd day for something of a wintry flavour to fall from some of the showers on the very highest tops, but nothing to get really excited about at this stage yet. It is a reminder that the seasons are moving along though. This is the chart we have for Saturday, and we have high pressure toward the southeast of Britain, low pressure away toward the northwest. It's a mild south-southwesterly flow that's across the country for Saturday, and it's a rather damp air mass that's being drawn in as a tropical maritime coming from well out over the mid-Atlantic. And all that does is produce a lot of moisture to be thrown at the windward mountains of Britain. So western Scotland, around the Lake District, and across West Wales, at least in the morning, a rather damp, misty, murky picture with some drizzly conditions around. And I suspect that low cloud will shroud those western coastal hills much, if not all, of the day, especially in Scotland, where that southwesterly wind is at its strongest, and near gale force across many of the mountains, particularly in the northwest around the coast, around Skye, Torridon, northwards across the far north. Those wind speeds likely to be around gale force on the mountains much of the day. As the wind just tips a little bit more to the south across Wales and the Pennines, some slightly drier air will drift in, and the Welsh mountains have a better chance of clearing a bit as we go through the day, and things brightening up a touch around the Peak District and the Pennines as well. But the western Lakeland fells, the south and west of the lakes, may just struggle with low cloud through the daytime. It's a windy picture for most places into Sunday, with a strong south-southwesterly across the country, which is gale or near gale force for many of the hills and mountains, and strengthening, if anything, as the day goes on across western regions, where 50-60 mile per hour winds, at least in gusts, could well develop ahead of the cold front coming in from the Atlantic. We've got something of drier, brighter conditions for a time then, but around western coasts, especially in Scotland, some lowering cloud, pulses of rain coming on, and all just deteriorating as that front does move in with some heavier rain later in the day. In terms of timing, it looks as though the heaviest rain is more into the afternoon and evening, but there are various pulses of rain which may just turn things rather wet across western Scotland even by the middle of the day, and all of that just gradually deteriorating. So through Sunday afternoon, that cold front coming in, and by the end of the day likely to be very wet with some heavier rainfall setting in extensively across western Scotland, and that getting into West Wales and Cumbria as well. Now that front will move eastwards as we go onwards into the evening and the night, with a heavy spell of rain across most of Britain as we go through the overnight hours into Monday, moving fairly smartly eastwards so that by dawn it's more or less cleared from much of Britain, but the idea of some showers then coming in from the west, and quite a drop of temperature behind that cold front. Ahead of it, values will have been up to double figures across the hills, but down to the lower end of single figures across the hills by first thing on Monday morning. The highest Scottish tops then not far off freezing point. For Monday, it's a cool southwesterly pattern that's in charge across the country. Then this is more of an air mass that has originated over the North Atlantic, so it's a polar maritime, or even a returning polar maritime flow we might call it, where it's circulating around a low that's parked to the northwest of us, so a distinctly different feel compared to Saturday, despite the wind direction not being that much different as a southwesterly. This is an unstable and showery situation though, where occasional sunshine will come through, but there'll be some heavy bursts of rain rattling in from the west, and some of those heavier bursts might contain a rumble of thunder, so quite a different sort of day. A distinctly chilly one then, temperatures well down into the lower end of single figures, and a marked wind chill factor where exposed. The wind speed still likely to be gale or near gale force across many of the higher tops, very squally where any showers are coming through. We're watching further out over the Atlantic, almost off this map, for another developing system which could form quite quickly later Monday into Tuesday. The little warm front just off the map almost, just the indication of that. By the time we get to Tuesday, the potential is there for quite an angry little area of low pressure to come spinning up across the British Isles. Now, a lot of uncertainty how this develops at this stage. It's a small system in its initial stages, but the idea of forming into another big heavy rainfall event across the country and the idea of gales or severe gales across the mountains, at least for a time. This one needs watching then, just to see what happens in the detail, but expect an unsettled day for Tuesday with rain for many places and that threat of gales. Temperatures then still on the cool side. Now, anybody's guess really just exactly what the pattern looks like by Wednesday. That area of low pressure likely to weaken and move away eastwards, but still a showery, rather unsettled story, and maybe something further developing over the Atlantic as well. Just a brighter story perhaps if high pressure begins to build a touch, but it's going to be a cool and showery theme, I would have thought, for many places into the middle of the week. Difficult to get really clever, I think, with things as we go toward the later part of the week. This may be just the general summary then for the outlook as a whole. This is the week right the way through up until Monday the 4th of October. The suggestion from this chart is that lower pressure is in charge, and it's a rather cool pattern that's coming around from the west by the northwest. So I think still, even into next weekend, temperatures on the mountains will be on the chilly side. The highest Scottish tops at times close to freezing point. Don't think going below as such, but it might just be enough to give a few wintry showers across the very highest Munros. I don't think anything more than that, particularly at this stage. But this unsettled trend, I think, will take us most likely through into next weekend. Just notice how high pressure is out over the mid-Atlantic, and then as we go into the following week, the 4th to the 11th, that sort of journeys its way eastwards, and quite a sort of typical seesaw pattern for this time of year. We could go back onto the other side of the coin and once again draw in a milder south-southwesterly flow, which could make things quite warm, in fact, by this stage if this pattern does unfold like this. Meanwhile, still some low-pressure systems passing to the northwest of Scotland on a strong southwesterly flow could still make things rather wet across western mountains in Scotland, but chance of an improvement for drier, warmer conditions further south and east across Britain. It's one of these times of year really where talking about average temperatures is a real waste of time because it hugely depends on just which way the airflow patterns are going. At any point in time you can go from feeling like early winter to still very much feeling like the back end of summer, and that may be the general story then over this next couple of weeks ahead. We shall follow all those developments. That is your Friday Planner in association with Ellis Brigham. Thanks for watching today. Bye for now.